and welcome back. I think this is turning into a monthly rather than weekly podcast, which I appreciate you still following along and bearing with me. I might change the name as well to Transcend the Tiger rather than Accept, then Achieve. But stay tuned. So, just a quick update on me. I am filming today from this beautiful location, thanks and courtesy of my friend and coach, Cheryl Lau, who is an amazing person. You should check her out at Cheryl Theory. She now specifically niches in helping podcasters differentiate themselves, finding their unique voice. But I'm so grateful that I came to Singapore for the Asian Wander Women conference, and Cheryl offered to host me. And she has such a lovely, lovely home. Like, look at her beautiful art, look at her amazing professional microphone. And her two cats are just chilling here on the table with me. And so in case they come walking by, you'll know why. But anyway, quick update on me. I finished my co-living in Nepal after 2 months, and then actually spent a month after that in Vietnam. Ended up going there because two people from the co-living were headed there, and so we all tried to coordinate because I'd been looking for travel buddies from the co-living. And after 6 years solo traveling, I was like, well, experiences are enhanced by the people for sure. And for me, they're more gratifying when shared. However, I did learn that it does, of course, depend on the company as well, because it can be, as an introvert, as you may relate to, draining depending on how you vibe with somebody. And so it was definitely a great learning experience. I had some issues with my Vietnam visa, so I wasn't able to join them in the second part of Vietnam, which is okay because I enjoyed having a few weeks to myself to sort of do a little mini meditative retreat and focus back in on myself and my goals. I would say that one trap I keep finding myself falling into as a recovering, mostly recovered people pleaser is getting really wrapped up in enthusiasm, but with other people's energies, their schedules, their plans, their preferences even. Because a lot of times I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely very, very flexible, and it doesn't feel like it's a sacrifice at the time until I hit a point where I've overextended myself and then realized, oh gosh, I didn't really put enough energy into nurturing myself and was feeling a bit depleted. And then usually at those times, I take a step back and hermit for a day or a few to just reconnect with myself. And one of the ways I do that is through my work that is as so fortunate to be an entrepreneur, and my work is an extension of my true self. So that is something that I'm learning to keep. I read this wonderful book recently that says like, keep one eye on the inside. So it's like not everything externally, because you can get lost in everything outside of you, but keeping just one eye on the inside, and keeping in touch with yourself and checking in with your capacity, having that self-awareness as you go through anything. And it doesn't make you any less present to other people. It kind of creates this balanced dynamic where, yeah, you're not overreaching or overextending yourself too much, because then you burn out and then you'll need a period of recovery anyway. And it would have just been good if you had honored that to begin with, and to not feel guilty saying that or doing that as well. It's still a work in progress. So anyways, it is already May, and today is May 5th. So a little late on this, but May has always been a really meaningful month to me. It is Mental Health Awareness Month, and it is AAPI Heritage Month. And so a lot of emotions always come up. And actually, it also is the Mother's Day, and yeah, it just reminds me to reflect on family. And so I decided to run my group program just once a year, because I was finding I had so many different projects and everything else going on that my capacity is only able to do it once a year for now, but we will see in the future. But for Mental Health Awareness Month, I'm doing quite a lot for the community, because I remember where I was at my lowest point 10 years ago now, where I was really not valuing myself, not wanting to continue on, and also not wanting to invest in any kind of help either, like admitting to anyone that I couldn't do it all on my own, or even to spend any time, energy, or money on anything like therapy. Or I guess I did read self-help books trying to help myself and pull myself up by my bootstraps. But this really goes for, it took me a long time to even spend like the $30 copay on a therapy session. So I really want to make events and make services really accessible to all people who are suffering. And so I'm running at least two free events, but one of them is in mid-May with Asian Heritage Week in partnership with Asian Hustle Network. And it will be on a workshop, a preview sample of what my program is like, Transcend the Tiger. Last year it was Tame the Tiger, but I am finding that as I've evolved and my programs have evolved and my clients and students have evolved, it really, transcend feels like a more fitting term, because we use a lot of principles from Buddhism to help us process our pain, our emotions, and to really move on from the past and not let that hold us back anymore from truly thriving and being the most authentic versions of ourselves, the most creative, the most fully expressed, the most joyful, and living whatever lives that are most meaningful to us. And so this will be Healing Tiger Children workshop that is flexible depending on who signs up and what you request, because there's a lot of areas we can touch on. But that will be May 12th. And then later on in the month, I actually have the privilege of and honor of partnering with Iris Chen, the founder of Untigering. Go check her out too, she's amazing. And she is also a recovering tiger mama with two children of her own. And she's really been through a journey, having lived in both China and America as well. And so we're actually doing, because I've certified and trained, have been helping couples with relationship coaching. So this workshop we'll be doing is called Untigering Your Romantic Relationships. But this could apply to any close or intimate relationship in your life, because it is the people we care about the most who have the potential to trigger us the most and to be the most difficult sometimes for us, because we care so much. And these really are wonderful opportunities for healing and for better understanding each other. So I'm really excited to share what I've learned from the Thriving Relationships, Center for Thriving Relationships year-long certification, and bringing that through the tigering lens and the untigering lens and all of that, because there are unique things that happened to us from our tiger parent upbringings. And it's nobody's fault. It is truly the ancestral tiger that has been passed down through generations. And we were all victims of it, truly. So we have those two going on, and I actually just also made my book and memoir and healing guide free for downloading, the Amazon Kindle ebook. It usually is a 5-day free promotion time, but for some reason they're limiting it to only 1 day. So it'll just be today, May 5th to May 6th, ends at midnight Pacific time. So if you want to grab it for free, it's normally like $9, $8.88. Pass it on to a loved one or friend. It has a lot of practical exercises in it that could help you clarify your values, find out what is authentically important to you, and to navigate difficult clashing values with your family or anyone else who you might be in conflict with or have difficulty with a gridlocked issue moving on from. So, and it really is my life story up until age 35. So I'm really grateful to be able to share that. And I've received feedback that it's been incredibly helpful to some people and healing. And so I wish I could make it free for longer, but if anyone is struggling and in financial hardship and would like the book even after the free promotion's over, just send me an email at drtooni@mail.com, drtooni@mail.com, not Gmail, but mail. So this episode, I wanted to share some principles from Transcend the Tiger, talk about some principles of Buddhism that recently I was published in an Asian American magazine, and what an honor it was. And I want to be able to share the principles more widely, especially if some people are not visual readers and they're more audio, then they can listen to this and absorb. So first off, I might actually just read some of it, but a lot of Buddhist principles, if you're unfamiliar with it at all, there are three main ones. So the first is dukkha, or suffering. And I think a lot of us are familiar with this one, that being human will always have its ups and downs. Oh, hi, cat. Will always have its ups and downs. Life will never be perfect. And there's always going to be things that we'll never have. There's inevitably going to be pain, there's going to be dissatisfaction, there's going to be things that we feel are missing from our lives and that we want, and we have the illusion that our life will be so much better if we just had these things, our goals, our dreams, or if someone else would change. And really almost a denial or not acceptance of that. But if we are able to soften and just be like, yeah, this is part of life, and whatever I experienced, because everyone's experienced suffering, mistreatment, injustice in some form or another. I think what keeps us trapped a lot of times is the illusion that life is supposed to be totally fair, and that can make us feel like the world owes us something for something terrible that we went through, and that is just not helpful for our mental health or helping us move on, or how we treat others as well. And we may end up acting even subtly in an entitled way or in an angry or resentful way. So being able to just accept that suffering is part of life, and that all of our ancestors, our parents, everyone else were victims of this tiger that feels like, no, life is supposed to be perfect. If you just work hard enough, you can be perfectly successful, worthy. You just have to check all the boxes, do everything right. But we can choose differently. We can choose to embrace all of life, the dark parts and the light parts, because without the bad times, then we won't appreciate the good times as much. We need that contrast to really appreciate those good moments and to really feel the full complexity of our humanity. So that is one way we can incorporate dukkha for ourselves, and to lean into more self-compassion so that we stop recreating and reliving any harm or injury or trauma in our minds and our memories. Secondly, anicca, which is impermanence. This is something that has been harder for me, but been playing around with this year especially, is that the past, truly, it happened already. We can't change it. A lot of times the human memory actually is really flawed and vulnerable to suggestion. Studies have found that memory is not something that we recall all intact. We actually have to deconstruct and piece it back together as we're trying to recall it. And so someone, even just asking a leading question, can really distort a certain memory. And they've interviewed many people, including eyewitnesses to crimes, and then also people who've experienced horrific things themselves, that they can be, it just can be really distorted. And so it kind of brings up the idea that, yeah, that the past is alive only in our minds, and that we have some control over it. And of course, we also know from studying trauma is that the trauma does imprint in our bodies as well. And so it's important to also, in part of your healing, work with a somatic practitioner to release that trauma from your body. But for what we can consciously control is that we can choose to not replay things over and over again for us. And then that influences our behaviors and our emotions. How can it not? And then if we have to deal with some part of our past that is a sensitive place for us or triggers us, then we might engage in the same patterns that we, for example, had always used with this person. And that can cause the same old dynamic to come up as well. But what you can do is if you shift yourself, if you just change your own dance moves a little bit, then the other person is forced. They can't do the same thing that they had always done before because you're not giving them that option. You are, for example, if you were, say, someone is attacking you and you start defending yourself, then it kind of spurs on the cycle and then it gives them more fodder even to attack you more, or you add more energy to the situation. Instead, if you're just like, okay, and walk away, or if you're just like, I'm sorry you feel that way, or yeah, I can see that. And it's just, it deflates the energy or it pops the balloon and it's just different. Or you could just point out and you're just like, do you recognize that this is really hurtful? Or like, gosh, what must have happened to you that you are thinking this way? Just something that kind of throws off the pace or the dynamic. Because impermanence also teaches us that any relationship is always ongoing. People are always changing and evolving. Even if you think that they aren't, they are going through experiences that slightly shift them, even if they're not admitting it. And even if, especially if we can't see it, if we are carrying this certain image of them in our minds and acting from that place, then that really blinds us to what is actually the reality in front of us. And so with Anicca, it's just reminding us that the past does not automatically determine the future. We're in fact always recreating every day. Truly every day is a new day. And one drawing that had come to me is, well, one conflict that I have with this is I don't want to gaslight or deny or dismiss very real pain and suffering that victims and survivors have been through. And how do we do both? How do we acknowledge it but not let it consume us or define us or play a huge role in our lives? Well, the drawing that I have, which I will share as part of the episode notes, is that imagine you have a heart and you have some pieces that from heartbreaks, from injury, from harm, that have been yanked out, cut out. And you have those pieces and you wonder sometimes like, gosh, how will I ever heal this? I can't. And it almost feels like if you do plug up the holes, then am I just going to pretend that it never happened? Like, it doesn't really honor what I've been through. But what I offer you is to focus on actually expanding yourself, expanding the heart, so that the pieces are just no longer, the gaps, the holes are no longer as big a part anymore, that then you're expanding and they're less of a big deal. And not because they're shrinking, but because you are growing and expanding. So you don't need to erase your trauma, gaslight your experiences. You can just choose to consciously fill your life with healthy and authentic experiences. Oh, cat just came by. And then the third one is anatta, which is non-self and non-attachment. And that's still hard for me to wrap my head around, that there is no self here, because we feel like, yes, there's someone here. Like, I have my thoughts, I have my consciousness, I have my identity even. And a lot of times it's from our memories, it's from that we make those conclusions about us and our personalities. So this one's still a work in progress for me, but it definitely goes along with the idea of non-attachment and just letting go a bit. Like the tiger, the ancestral tiger, is really attached to who we are, and we're defined by our accomplishments and our achievements. But that really flattens our humanity, because to believe that our worth is only validated through our external things, such as our possessions or money or relationship status or jobs or degrees, it's really a simplistic, reductionistic, capitalistic, and materialistic view of success. Because Buddhism at its heart recognizes that there is inherent worth to every single being and every single soul. But simply because we exist, because we do make some kind of impact on this world by where we choose to live, what we choose to eat, or where, or how we choose to spend our time, where we choose to invest our time, energy, or resources, and how we interact with each other, because every person matters to somebody else. Even if not another human, we matter to an animal, or we are all important and worthy of love. And so this can help poke holes in the obsession that the ancestral tiger has with appearances, saving face, looks, and external things, and a lot of which we don't ultimately have control over anyway, and ultimately also don't matter after we die. So why cause ourselves stress and grief trying to cling so tightly to these things that we can't control and hinge our entire well-being on them? So if we can rise above and beyond the sight of this tiger, we can see what really matters in life, which is our internal experience. Because the only external thing that can stay forever, perhaps, is our impact on others and the world. But even long after death, we feel the effects some people had in the things they created, the causes they moved forward, or the fond memories they left with loved ones. And so for transcending the tiger means looking beyond our human conflicts and struggles to discover or rediscover and focus on what really matters to each of us, which is unique and different to every soul. At the end of the article, I have a few questions, reflection questions for you to consider, and also actionable items. And I'm happy to review them here as well. So if you're struggling to let go, I invite you to ask yourself, number one, what were their best intentions? If I gave them the benefit of the doubt, even just for 5 minutes, for the sake of this exercise. Number two, what do they actually want for me deep down? How is what they want from me actually what I want too? Or is there any overlap? Number three, even though they did many things wrong, what did they do right? Knowing that nobody is perfect. And number four, are there any lessons or parts of my story I can be grateful for that I was able to reach, for example, this depth and level of love, kindness, wisdom, growth, self-awareness, etc., because I went through this? We don't get to choose our childhood or our parents or our lineage or our ancestors, but we do get to choose our responses to them and our future. Some actionable items you can do immediately after listening to this podcast episode. Share what you're grateful for, or what your parent or the person that you still have emotionally charged feelings towards did right. To them directly if you can, if you're brave enough. If not, you can just write a long letter and share that letter with a trusted friend or therapist or coach or support person in your life. Number two, instead of a to-do list, make a daily done or small successes list, because that subtle difference will allow you to start celebrating yourself more for all the things that we take for granted that it takes to stay alive as a human, such as eating food or getting out of bed. And number three, more journaling exercises that you can try. For example, if I were a parent, and be honest with yourself, how have you treated your loved ones? If you don't have children, how do you treat the people closest to you? Did you make mistakes? Did you have moments when the tiger took a hold of you too? And when did you snap out of it, or how did you snap out of it? And can you do more or notice it sooner next time? For even more exercises like these on discovering your authentic values and finding common ground with your tiger family or anyone else you're in conflict with, you can refer to my other podcast episode, which has a sample from my book, or download my book for free for the next 48 hours. My book, The Why You Know Doctor Anymore, Honoring Your Family and Yourself Too. You're also welcome to join my email list at drtooney.com, where I send out at least monthly resources and musings to help you continue on your journey to living the happiest, healthiest life that you can. And if you would like to work more closely directly, you're also welcome to book a call with me to talk about ways we could work one-on-one or live in the group program that is starting at the end of May, usually May 31st or so, but it will depend on everyone's schedules. Last year, we had the Tiger group start from June, and it lasted, because of people's schedules, a bit longer than the 3 months. It was about 4 months, and then we met up in person, and it was so lovely and beautiful and healing. And that's something that I am exploring as well, incorporating more touch and like a platonic touch therapist, because that is an important part of the somatic part of healing as well, which is hard as a nomad, but I stay places for a few months at a time, and we can work it out. So I'm headed next to the Philippines for a talk, presenting at a conference called the Freedom Summit. Oh, definitely, there's so many updates when I've gone a whole month without sharing. So if you happen to be there, we're doing one in Philippines and one in Bali. Let us know. I can send you the link. And I was just here in Singapore for the Asian Wonder Women Summit, also a great group of people. If you'd like to join them next time, reach out to me. And I hope this episode brought you some new perspective, some comfort or healing. Feel free to share it with loved ones that you think could benefit. And feel free to reach out to me anytime at drtooney@mail.com, or you can reach out on my blog, book a call, or even text. All right, take care and see you next time.